welcome back, all you kings, queens, and royal beings. This is episode 13 of Run the Terra. I'm Grandmaster Dan.
I'm Adam Edelman-Munoz.
And I'm Stan Jarzewski.
Yeah, so, today we have a pretty big patch. I don't know if you guys have heard, but the game's officially out. We've actually been playing, a beta for the past, 4 months? 3 months?
Something like that.
Yeah, so we got a slew of cards. We're gonna go over some of these cards because we actually, despite us spending what feels like, I think the correct term is metric fuck ton of time covering all the spoilers. There's at least I think double that number of cards that still we have not covered. So we're gonna go over some of these.
Yeah, it turns out they dropped all the spoilers in the last 2 days, which is also the 2 days between when our podcast came and when it was released.
Yep.
Which I would like to ask or petition Riot, as I know I have a direct line to them. I'd like to petition them to start giving their community members, including, it's only us because we're the only people in the community, to give us all the spoilers, to become sort of the cartel of spoilers for the next set. And we'll just kind of dole them out as we see fit in a manner to increase our social capital.
Yes.
But so there are a ton of new spoilers. We're going to talk about some of them, what we think are some of the best new cards. Week 1 decks, meta, what we've been seeing, what you're going to be seeing, and of course we'll be building some decks. And later in the afternoon, I don't know why I said afternoon, but later in the back half, we'll be doing some memes as well because you can't let go of the memes. But yeah, I guess we can get into the overview now of some of the cards. What do you want to start with, Stan?
So I guess we'll start from the top. We have Twisted Fate revealed here, so some of our new champions. A good old 4-mana 2/2 quick attack. Yeehaw! The Twisted Fate is a nice little versatile tool. He's actually, now that we get to see these cards out as well, been putting in some work. He's certainly not a bad champion. The versatility of when you play him, you get to play a Destiny card, which gives you the option of one of 3 blue,
Destinies.
red, and gold card. Yes. You gotta pick your waifu whenever he comes out. So blue card, refill a spell mana, draw a card. Always good. Red card, deal 1 damage to all enemies in the enemy nexus. Can certainly help clear out chumpy boards. And gold card, deal 2 damage and stun the strongest enemy, which can also be pretty valuable. So just the fact that he has great versatility when he comes down is pretty impressive. His level up condition initially looks kind of sketchy. How am I going to keep a 2/2 alive long enough to draw 8+ cards?
Yeah.
But it turns out that a lot of new things, including his champion spell, pick a card that lets you put a card back into your deck to draw 3 on the next round, really accelerate this clock. Flipping Twisted Fate's not as hard as people would think it would be, and even if he doesn't flip, you've still probably gotten value out of him at 4/2 do one of his 3 special things.
Yeah, to me, I was very skeptical, and I just put him into a deck. I guess the 28th, the day everything came out. Yeah. And all of a sudden, that next turn, I flipped him. And I was like, "Whoa, crap! Okay, yeah, this is not too hard because you get 1 for drawing, drawing on the next turn. You'll probably do that twice, and then you play 1 or 2 draw spells, and all of a sudden you're basically there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very impressive.
Twisted Fate does a good job at teaching us a lesson about versatility. Because 4-mana 2/2 is undercosted, even with the attack. That's just not champion stats, but the fact that he will always either draw you a card or interact favorably with the opponent's board means that there's no situation where he's not good, even though he's a bit overcosted on just raw numbers.
Yes.
Exactly. A lot of interesting choice of value. It's kind of cool that it's not a random, an RNG thing of which effect goes off. That makes the card very good.
Yes.
I would not be playing this card if I didn't get to pick the effect. That's basically what I'm saying.
And I think so. When he flips, if I'm correct in how this works, is it always sequenced the same way between the 3 cards? The first spell you cast.
Yes, it's first blue, then red, then gold in that order.
That's correct.
So it's not even random when he plays his own Destiny cards.
Yeah, it's a massive flavor loss, but
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's.
Nah, man, Twisted Fate doesn't gamble.
Oh,
He,
it's twisted.
stacks the deck.
Oh yeah, the fate's twisted. I just realized that. Oh,
Yes.
oh my god.
But
Brilliant.
I guess we haven't really explained what that's doing. So when he flips, the first 3 times he sees you play a card each round, he in order plays blue card, red card, gold card. So you get an extra card out of each card you play while he's flipped, which is pretty insane. Like, his flip side is nutso value.
Yeah, once I
mean, even...
Go for it.
Go ahead.
No, you know what? I'm taking a stand right now, Adam. You go ahead.
All right, I will go ahead. All right, so very importantly, the first thing he does every time you play is give you a card and a spell mana.
Yep.
So he's fueling his next ability. He is effectively reducing the cost of your first play every turn by 1. It's a very, assuming you're going to play a spell that round, which you should be if you're playing Twisted Fate, it's a very efficient package that just makes it fairly easy to snowball into your next spell, into winning the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I flipped him once, and it was just, I mean, it might have already been lights out for my opponent before then. I think it probably was. But this is the kind of card where if you're in a stall state and you just like put him down, your opponent's near empty-handed, you're near empty-handed. It's like an insane top deck. It just turns the game around into unwinnable so fast.
Yeah.
Love it. Love this card.
And then so to get over some of the cards that support Twisted Fate, and since there's a bunch we're going to skip over, we're not going to do all of them, just the ones that are relevant. Pool Shark has already shown to be a pretty powerful card. Slots pretty flexibly into a lot of different types of decks. This, 1 mana, 1/2, just when he's summoned, draw 1 fleeting next round. So you get an extra draw, you have to use it that turn, but it's still +1 card for 1 mana.
If your deck's cheap enough, which it should be if you're playing Twisted Fate, you will be able to play that card the vast majority of the time, even if you drop this on 1.
Yes, sir.
And, I mean, again, even in, like, some just more spell-slingy Ionia decks, if somehow Twisted Fate isn't fitting in there, this card's still something you're going to want for just being a cheap way to set up your next few turns.
Bilgewater decks, but yes.
Or so, yeah. What I'm saying is, like, even if you were in a spell-slingy Bilgewater Ionia deck, there we go.
I gotcha. Or Bilge PNZ.
Or Bilge, yeah. Again, I don't know why you wouldn't be playing Twisted Fate, at least as one of those, but, even without
aggressive Bilge Noxus decks.
Yeah. And I think the other pseudo-relevant card, at least out of Twisted Fate, I don't think we've quite figured out where exactly this guy's going to land yet, but Black Market Merchant is definitely seeing play right now. So he's a 2-mana 2/2, and when you draw a card from the enemy's deck, which is such an exciting mechanic to see, you reduce their cost by 1, and then if you trigger Plunder before playing him, you will immediately draw a card from the enemy's deck. So he really only synergizes with one other card directly. Pilfered Goods is the only other card that lets you draw from the opponent's deck right now. But between the two of them, you have ways of taking cards from your opponent now, which is pretty cool. And really all this is being used for right now is that some people are just going in on the Steal Your Stuff archetype, and or this is being used to finish out the game with Maokai once you flip him to just immediately, like, steal the last few cards off your opponent's deck so the game's over.
True that.
Of note, sorry, I had some word vomit there. I'm not as high on this mechanic as you guys are, mostly because mechanics like this tend to be fairly high variance.
Yeah.
Like, drawing from your opponent's deck is sometimes... You're always getting something out of it, but what you get can change the game drastically.
Yes.
And because it's not like your deck and you're not creating a... when you draw from your deck, what's left in your deck changes, and your next draw is more likely to be the card you need, and the next one after that, and so on.
Yeah. So
there's a sort of self-correcting mechanism to that. The better you draw from your deck before, the worse you draw from your deck later, and vice versa.
Yeah.
On the other hand, drawing from your opponent's deck is like complete dartboard. You're gonna mostly get something completely random, and it could be amazing, it could be terrible.
Yep. Hey.
And like, I'm okay with a bit of variance in my games, but I feel like this is the kind of variance that, if it's too strong, is going to lead to a lot of games where what you drew mattered a lot more than other aspects of the game.
That's pretty fair. I think that the variance and level of that card really ends up coming down to how synergistic decks end up being once the meta settles. So
that's a good point. Right? If everyone's playing mid-range decks, then what you get's not going to matter a ton.
Or just 36 removable spells and like 4 champions.
Yeah, like if your deck's at a point where everything you're drawing from your opponent is just good stuffs, then you're never going to feel bad taking anything. But if, there are a lot of synergistic decks running around, like if there's a ton of like ephemeral aggro or something like that going around, and you're taking their like one of
Shark.
Yeah, exactly. You feel super bad. You're slowing their plan down a little bit to some extent, but you're not getting much value out of it.
I mean, so there's going to be a bit of a theme I'm running with here for today's set of reveals, which is I think the way control function in this game has been shifted radically, and this is part of it, right? You can't rely on individual good cards anymore, because if your opponent's drawing like 3 cards from your deck a game, the number of games you lose because your opponent
took something from
randomly snagged a good finisher is big.
That's fair, yeah.
So cards like Ledros have had their stock dumped.
Mm-hmm.
Sell now, sell all Ledro stock, sell.
Yeah. But again, I think that this card's probably on its own fine, maybe playable. Like, maybe you get there, maybe not. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
I want to be cautious about more of this mechanic.
Right.
I think we're probably at an okay level now, right? It's okay if there's the occasional game where you get blown out because your opponent drew your 1 Ledros. But I feel like we don't want too much of this.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally meta dependent still, because even if there was like a good amount of it, if it's still at a point where it's throwing dartboards, then the deck never really gets that far competitively. It becomes an annoying...
That's the other thing, right? This thing comes on a 2/2 body for 2, so its fail case isn't so bad.
No, yeah, absolutely. Same with why, again, like even just using it as like a win con for Maokai, where the variance part of it doesn't really matter. All you're trying to do
so say what you draw doesn't matter, because all you're doing is cutting the clock down 1,
Yeah. But yeah, as far as like the steal part goes, if I do agree with you that it shouldn't be too much more, like 2 more cards max, so that there is, a steal your opponent's stuff deck. But, the other cards printed for it probably have to be pretty damn weak, so that the deck really is just like a meme variance deck that actually sucks to play against, because when you lose, it's just like, God, they got lucky. But when they win, they feel like, oh, I stole your stuff, and maybe that's fun for someone out there. But...
like there's a limited amount of this that should be good.
Exactly.
I think we're pretty close to there. The other thing I'd like to comment on is that this steals from your deck, which is the hardest zone for you to interact with, and it's blind information.
Right.
Mind controlling effects are much less offensive to me here.
I get you.
I'm more offended by mind control personally, but I guess that's a personal. When you said there was a limited amount, I thought you were going to say there's a limited amount of fun to be had in a game, and you're going to go down a meme path of D&T type stuff where it's fun as a zero-sum game, and if I'm having if you're having none of it, that means I'm having all of the fun.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
All right. One more note before we move on from Twisted Fate. Pick a card is not just his champion spell. It's also a collectible card that you can and should add to your deck.
As they always are. Well, they're not always should be added, but they are always the also collectible.
Is every champion spell collectible?
Every champion spell is collectible.
Every single one. I'm 100% guaranteeing that. Don't quote me, though.
Yeah. That's how they work.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sam's right there. I'm pretty sure every single one of them is. I can't think of anyone that's not collectible. They might spawn a skill or something that's not.
I think you're right, but yeah, you guys have to be right.
That's a very good point, Adam. We do have to be right.
I'm not gonna lie. If they print one where it isn't, I'm going to be very upset just from like a consistency standpoint, because it's gonna bug me so bad.
Yeah. So what is?
I mean, theoretically, you could have something that interfaced better with your champion, like something that was really like you would never want to cast it if you didn't have your champion around.
Yeah.
Sure, but
In fact, when we get to Nautilus, I'm going to talk a bit about that.
right.
So,
right. But let's move on to Gangplank here and hit up our next little set of spoilies.
all right.
So next up, we got our boy Gangplank, 5 mana 5/5 with Overwhelm. Not terrible, pretty decent stats around there. And he brings with him the Powder Keg mechanic, which is a 0 mana 0/1 that is vulnerable, can't attack or block, but it's a card that can stack on top of itself. And what Powder Kegs do is whenever you cast a spell or skill that does damage, for each Powder Keg you have stacked together, they'll all sacrifice and add a damage to that spell. These are really interesting. They are pseudo a body because there are a decent amount of times where your opponent's going to want to use the vulnerable on these to
Get rid of them.
try and clear them off the board because they are a little spooky sometimes. But they are very good. When we get to Misfortune, we'll talk about how they synergize with specifically some good cards that came along with her. But they're pretty strong. They're doing pretty well. There are a lot of things that ping a lot of stuff. For one, there are a lot of go-wide damage effects in the game, and these things make those way better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, as we've mentioned a lot of times, there are important breakpoints in this game. The difference between 1 and 2 damage is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between 3 and 4 damage is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And Powder Keg takes all of these things that were in the wrong spot and nudges them up.
Yep. So, Gangplank's level up condition is you've damaged enemies Nexus in 5 rounds this game. So pretty similar to Sejuani's level up condition, which is why I think we've been seeing some Sejuani Gangplank
I think it's literally identical except for the wording.
Yeah, and so that
Very
really
cool.
yeah. So they're a match made in heaven. They level each other up. It's great. It's very cute.
It's mwah.
But that's not necessarily the best way to play him, just because both of your champions level up at the same time. He works very well with Swain, especially because he is buffing like Swain's ability damage. He is also working pretty well with Swain's condition, adding more damage by non-combat means to help level your Swain faster. And when he's...
Powder Kegs play friendly with Swain as well.
Yeah. And when he levels up, he becomes 6/6. Yay, classic stat bump. And leveled up, when he's summoned, he makes a Powder Keg. And at the start of each round, he makes a new Powder Keg. And then he gets the ability that whenever he attacks, he does 1 damage to all enemies and the enemy Nexus, which is, barring crazy things happening, almost always going to be 2 damage across the board. So he's kind of like a...
Yeah, because you picked up a Powder Keg at the start of your round.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cheaper, bigger
Cheaper
Anivia.
Kiefer.
Cheaper Kiefer Anivia that can't revive himself with Overwhelm. So he could be a pretty spooky boy. This pirate's going to be raiding your ships,
Yar,
coming
matey.
over there. Hida Hida Hoda. And I think so. His champion spell is Parlay. I actually forget if this is the back half.
Yes, that is the champion spell.
Yeah. Pretty neat little, deal 1 to anything, and if it kills the enemy, deal
You pronounce
1
it
to
wrong,
the
Stan.
next.
It's parlay.
Oh god, there's an extra R there. His champion spell is
Couple extras, yeah.
His champion spell's parsley. It goes good with some foods. Let's move on to the next thing there. So
Heck yeah.
So Jagged Butcher is a 1 mana 2/2 with Plunder, get an extra 1/1.
yeah,
I'll take it.
I will.
I mean, Cythria was already seeing play in this, and other than the elite tag, this is strictly better.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, it gives him a little more flexibility on curve too, because if you play him, or not on curve, but playing him a little later into the game doesn't feel as bad. You're not just getting a 2/2, you're getting a 3/3, which is a much more relevant body on turns like 4, 5, and 6.
Absolutely.
3/3 is actually doing something. He's still not that premium 4 health, very luckily, because that would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, like, almost all of the quick attacks are 3, and that's the only awkwardness about a 3 body. But for 1 mana, you're getting a good deal if you're playing a 1 mana 3/3.
Yeah, and you also really don't mind playing this on turn 1. Just like,
No, not at all.
You'll take your Cythria.
Yeah. He's not the 3 damage on 1 that some other things are, but again, he's a good, flexible, aggressive tool. So moving on from him, we have a new common all-star to the game that is most definitely going to keep seeing play throughout the... this card's going to become a pretty solid staple of a lot of decks. Dreadway Deckhand, 2 mana 2/2, good all-around body, and when she summons, summon a Powder Keg. This initially doesn't sound as powerful as it could be, but as we've talked about, Powder Kegs are a lot better than they look. This is another body on your board. This is...
I mean, if you play this with the attack token or after your opponent attacks, you're almost always going to be able to use your Powder Keg on turn 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, even if it didn't, this is sort of like a 2-mana fog a creature if they have to kill your Powder Keg, you know?
Which is not amazing, but in the matchups where you're going to end up using it, that's something you're usually happy to have.
Exactly.
Right, if this prevents 3 damage from a Legion Rearguard or whatever.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
You're very happy about this.
Yep. So it is an all-around pretty solid card. I think, speaking of creating Powder Kegs, this might actually be a good time to really quickly bring up a new mechanic that I didn't pay attention to and somehow didn't know was there until I saw it happen. So with the addition of Powder Kegs, you now have this random thing that's taking up board space. And board space used to be a really important issue in this game, where once you have 6 creatures on the board, that's it, you can't do anything. Well, they've now added a mechanic where you can obliterate one of your creatures to replace them on board.
Yes, sir.
This is a huge change to the game. I'm not sure how much this is really going to affect the meta in the long run, but I think I like the change. I like the flexibility.
I would say a modest change to the game. There are not that many board states where you both have 6 units on board and desperately want to upgrade one.
But what it does...
God, it feels good when you do.
Yeah. And what it changes, though, is you can no longer have the situation where... by your opponent's mistake, they fill up their board, and you look at them and go, "Oh, cool! I'm never killing one of your units again." And
exactly.
I have ways around actually attacking your units. Like, this is probably least favorable to elusives over any other archetype in the game, because they were the ones where, oh, you've locked your board in. Cool. I'm never going to give you an option to trade out of this board. I'm always going to swing under. They no longer have that option anymore because the opponent can always just swap something out. And again, I think the way they handled it's pretty elegantly. It's an obliterate trigger, so it's not like it can be abused for synergies or anything like that. And again, I think it is nice. It helps people not get stuck in these weird situations where they were forced to play something to block. Some weird thing happens, now their board's locked out and their whole game plan stopped. I think it's a small but relevant feel good. Yeah. So, finally covered that.
Good change, guys.
Yeah, good
you
stuff.
did it right.
Good stuff. I like it. Let's move on to...
All right, let's get moving to Nautilus.
Naughty boy.
Hey, this is a non-standard upgrade power toughness change. We did it.
Yeah, we'll talk about this. So Nautilus is a 7-mana 0/12
garbage
with tough and fearsome. Yeah. Check out that fearsome on the 0 attack unit. Real exciting.
I'm scared. I don't know what's happening.
All right. Nautilus levels up when you are deep. So that's if you have 15 or fewer cards in your deck. Mm-hmm. And of note, and it's small edge case, but if you end up deep at any point in the game and somehow get undeep, Nautilus will still be leveled up when you play him.
Yes, you are always once you're deep, you're always deep. Another thing that I've noticed
it's
about
a good life lesson.
Yep. One thing I've noticed about deep as well, and I'm not sure if this is a bug or how exactly this works. I still need to go back and test this. We were seeing this a little bit when Adam and I were doing some deck building tests earlier in the week. If you are deep and you draw from your opponent's deck while you are deep, their deck becomes deep, at least on your UI. Which I don't know if...
on my UI too.
On both UIs. Which I don't know if that means that you've activated any deep cards they have. We didn't really have a chance to test that, but...
We noticed it, and then we just kind of got more excited about other stuff.
Yes.
We've become Riot QA.
So,
we're now Riot QA, guys.
I don't know if that's a bug, or if that's meant to happen, or if that really means that deep decks playing against each other have to do this weird thing where they just never play cards that draw from the opponent's deck.
Hey
Well,
now.
I mean, I'm guessing most deep decks playing against each other are just going to get to deep fast enough. It's not going to matter. But that
Probably.
said, it's a weird interaction.
But
I think the place that's most likely to be relevant is expeditions.
yes,
Where the probability your opponent has a random junky deep card that they're not trying to enable, and then you accidentally turn it on. If in fact that's how it works,
Yeah.
still not sure.
I mean,
Hey now. You're a deep
Just-
deck. You're a deep deck. That's
Always.
all I got.
I mean, the real awkward thing about that, though, is there's still going to be situations where, like, the deep deck game plan is going to be to race to deep, and if someone gets there, like, 2 turns ahead of their opponent, and then accidentally activates their opponent's deep, like, that's a huge loss in time frame.
Yeah, I guess losing 2 turns of having an enormous board advantage over your opponent's a big deal.
But at the same time, I don't know why you would be playing the draw cards from the opponent's decks if you're solely trying to be deep. Like,
Yeah, if you're not like the Maokai deck, which we'll get.
Wait, we
to.
totally missed it.
Um,
You've activated my deep card. That's
Ah.
it. We got it. We got
Okay.
it, boys. All right, I can
Well, anyway,
go back to
Alright,
sleep
once-
now.
So,
once not
circling back to Nautilus.
once you get deep,
Nautilus.
yeah.
Yes, once you're deep with Nautilus, Nautilus is a 7-mana 13/13 with Tough and Fearsome, and he makes all of your sea monster allies cost 4 or less.
which is pretty wonky. You can just
Friend of the
slam
Sea Boys.
Yeah, and sea monsters
So-
are all big things that get bigger with deep.
Yes. So initially with Nautilus, my first thought was this is a pretty solid individual threat, but it will depend on how good Deep is, right? You know, if Deep is. Oh, sorry. One other thing we forgot about Nautilus: when he levels up, you also take any tossed
Oh, right, yes.
4 or greater cost allies and shuffle them back into your deck.
Yep.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you get
So-
back all your big boys.
Yeah. So with Nautilus, my first look at Nautilus, I had to figure out like what to evaluate this, because if Deep isn't easy to do, then this is a 0/12
Yeah,
that does nothing.
Yep.
On the other hand, if Deep is easy to do, then this is a 7-mana 13/13, which is good stats already, and it has that sea monster rider text.
and
So I wasn't sure what to think about it until we played against it. Deep is not hard to do, boys.
deep is
I mean, you're not going to have
Yeah,
it
it's
reliably
amazing.
against aggro, but in every other, like, and maybe like you lose the race against Karma Ezreal or TF Ezreal, which we'll get to in a bit. But against every other deck, you will have Deep. It'll be on. It will be fairly reliable. You can count on this as a game plan.
yeah. It's-
And because Nautilus shuffles cards back into your deck, you're not actually concerned about decking yourself out with the Deep.
Yeah, and you're usually in a spot. I mean, like, once you've got like a Nautilus on board and whatever other game plans you're looking at, you're probably killing your opponent before that deck out condition is too big of an
Yeah.
issue. It is something to worry about,
Yeah.
but like you're getting in damage fast.
Yeah, I mean, Nautilus is the Deep deck is fairly solid. I think it's your go-to kind of exhaustion control deck
Yeah.
at this moment, and we'll get a bit more into how you build that deck in a bit. But in general, I found that Nautilus does his job fairly well. I mean, we had some games where you played him on 7, flipped, and just you were there.
Yep. Yeah, it's not too
So
hard.
like if your objective is to win a long kind of slow game on value, Nautilus is your boy, because the Deep, it turns out you don't actually end up decking out because of Nautilus's level of ability,
Yeah.
and because of some other cards that we'll talk about in a moment, and the sea monsters are good enough and big enough that Nautilus is going to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nautilus will help get you there. So Nautilus's
Yeah.
spell is Riptide. 4 mana, stun an enemy. So right now we're at a
Fast speed.
fast speed. So right now we're at a worse Steel Tempest. But it has the upside of if there is a Nautilus in play, shuffle that unit into the enemy's deck instead.
Get it
This
out of
is-
here.
This is a pretty solid spell if it lands.
Yeah, so 4 mana stun an enemy is
Not
really
great.
awkward. You probably wouldn't play it. You know, we've got Will of Ionia, which is significantly better already sitting around in the game.
Yeah.
On the other hand, 4 mana shuffle an enemy into their deck is probably actually better than not just Will of Ionia, but probably better than Vengeance. You know, it avoids Last Breath. It doesn't let them revive it with any other reviving effects.
Yep.
And it's still pretty much gone.
Yeah, and so the awkward thing about this, I've used this once playing just some. I'm kind of avoiding ladder just for a little bit while things are still the wild, wild west out there, because I just want to see what's going on and, actually experiment for a while without it affecting anything else. But this card is pretty vulnerable to things because it relies on Nautilus to be there. So, like, I've cast this, had someone Will of Ionia my Nautilus, and it's like, that's a little awkward. Now there's just there's just a stunned unit on the board now.
So much spaghetti.
Now, I do think that, like, this spell isn't really playable on its own. It's really only useful as...
I'm never adding a Riptide into my deck.
But when it works as Nautilus's, the Nautilus number 2 in your hand, this is a pretty decent, pretty decent thing to have. And there's not a ton of ways for it to be blown out like that. Ionia and I think Shadow Isles really have the only ways of truly stopping this from happening.
Yeah.
And I guess if you had to use it against a Fizz can technically stop it as well, but, like, that's...
Yeah, but Fizz can stop everything. That's
exactly,
a different issue.
Yeah.
And, like, I guess theoretically Piltover and Zon could have enough removal to kill your Nautilus, but you're probably fine with that exchange.
That's rough.
Yeah, I'll take that 3 for 1, dude.
3 for 1. Jesus Christ, they don't do that.
Nautilus is tough, Dan.
Yeah.
Like, if they didn't...
They have...
Like, oh my.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of, like, 3 Thermo Beams, but that doesn't even work.
Yeah, because it's slow speed. Did they cast 13 Mystic Shots? Is that how they killed it, Dan?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm tired, dude. I don't know.
You can detain it. That's the other way to blow this out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, suck it,
Detain
nerd.
would
But yeah,
work,
Detain's not that great, and honestly, this is, it's a solid spell. I think it's very good to have it as Nautilus's spell, signature spell. Not so good in the, like, as a card itself, but that's fine.
So, now a spell that is very good, Salvage. 4 mana,
Oh my.
toss 2, draw 2.
I love drawing,
Burst.
too.
Burst
Speed.
Yep. Which is, well, yeah, very, very important here that it doesn't get countered, isn't, like, something that can be stopped, but, yeah, this is a good card. I know some people have brought up that this is, like, in Magic what's usually the 3 mana draw 2, but because of spell mana and Rune Terra, things are going to cost 1 more usually. But
Yeah, also burst speed, right? It's 3. You probably play in your average
Gladly.
Standard environment,
Yes.
4 mana instant speed, draw 2
Yes.
can't be countered.
I play that
Yes.
every time. I'd make my deck, like, half of that. Would
Yeah,
just be
exactly.
That card.
And this comes with an extra rider of tossing 2, which is not irrelevant.
tossing 2 is actively good for the decks that care about toss, and if you are in a Bilgewater deck that doesn't care about toss, the toss 2 is not a bad downside. Because realistically, the toss 2 shouldn't affect the game at all. Just from the stand.
Yeah, and as we've said before, tossing a few cards is okay. It doesn't change much.
Yeah.
And if you can't run too many toss cards without a payoff, either Nautilus or Maokai.
But in, like, the Twisted Fate, like, Spellslinger's deck, this is a great card for cycling through more of your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And again, like, I think in that particular deck, there are chances to mill out, but it's not because of salvage. It's typically because you're drawing so many damn cards through the whole game. But you've probably won by the time you've gotten there anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there's that one.
This is just good. You play it in every Bilgewater deck, except for the very aggressive ones.
Yeah. So, next up, I think we can really quickly go Drudge Dredgers, 1 mana 2/1, summon, toss 3. This card's actually seeing play as a really good enabler for toss and deep decks.
It chumps, it pressures, it tosses 3.
Yeah.
Not much else to be said.
And at any point in the game, it's probably okay to play him, even if he's not generating, like, aggression. Just being a chumper, tossing 3 for 1 mana. It's, definitely better than Jettison. Don't play Jettison, which is just like a 1 mana toss 4. Don't do that.
Better get a Jettison.
Yeah. So, onto a card that does real big boy things. Shipwreck Hoarder, one of our sea monsters. 7 mana, 7/5 with deep, so +3/+3 when you hit your 15 or less cards in deck. And when he's summoned, he'll toss 2 for you and shuffle 2 treasures into your deck. Now, what are treasures? Treasures are stupid big boy cards.
Yeah, treasures are all 5 mana slow spells. With that, when they're tossed, you draw them instead of tossing them, and have a absurd effect.
Yeah.
An effect that should cost significantly more than 5 mana.
Yes.
The 3 treasures are Plateworm Egg, which summons 3 5/5 deep fearsome sea monsters.
Yep.
So almost always going to be 8/8 fearsomes.
Yeah, by the time you
So
play
that's
this.
going to be 24 power for 5 mana, and that's going to win you the game if your opponent doesn't have very good mass removal most of the time. Treasure Trove is 5 mana, make 5 cards in hand that cost 0 and are fleeting.
Yep.
This one is probably the weakest effect, though not terrible. It's going to help you. You'll usually get a few units and maybe a spell or two that can impact the board. Usually that's going to lead to a moderate board swing. This is the least game-winning of the effects.
Or the most, depending on what it gives you. But
yeah, if you high roll really high, it can be nuts, but most of the time it's just fine. And then Keelbreaker is a 5 mana, deal 5 to all units.
Yeah.
So this is just take any game where your opponent had a board, they don't have a board anymore.
And, I mean, one thing to keep in mind about Treasure Trove, though, is it's also variant based on what your secondary region is. I'm pretty sure this still works on the random rules of everything else, so you are only getting Bilgewater and your other region's worth of cards. So...
Oh, yes.
So per region paired with this, which is most likely going to be Shadow Isles, typically for deep decks, but... who knows what else is going to get played alongside that in, the coming days. So depending on what region you're in is going to also somewhat shift the value of Treasure Trove to some extent.
Absolutely. There are not quite so many good late-game Ionia cards to pick up with Treasure Trove, for example.
Yeah, but like in SI, if you...
Piltover and Zon, you'll be moderately more likely to get some medium-quality burn.
Yeah, but I mean, in SI, give me a 0-mana Ledros. Let's go, baby.
Vengeance, some healing. There's a lot of things you can hit in SI that do very well. Or you could hit spiders.
5 spiders. Let's go. 5 mana.
All right, but yeah, so Shipwreck Hoarder, circling back to the card that gets all this started, is the other reason you can't outlast a deep deck.
Yeah.
Between Nautilus and Shipwreck Hoarder, the deep deck secretly has an extra 10 to 15 cards after it hits deep, so 25 or so cards left, which is often going to be about the same as their opponent has left.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so next up we got Fizzy Boy, little disruptive, elusive, Bilgewater aggro guy. Haven't seen much of him played yet. I'm not really sure how exactly he's gonna.
I've seen a bit of him in Fizz Ionia elusives.
Okay, so
yeah,
you're just playing Ionia elusives, and this guy plays well with the team.
Makes sense. I mean, it is nice to have a.
So he's a 1 mana 2/1. When you cast a spell, he gains elusive until end of turn and stops all units targeting him. And note, it does not say elusive till end of turn on the card, so thanks, Riot. Clarity OP.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, he's solid. He's easy to protect. You're usually going to be swinging in for 2 with him.
Yep. And he levels up when you've cast 6 spells this game, which isn't really that hard to do in this current meta. Spells are all over the place, and there's lots of cheap ones. And his level up brings him to a 3/2, standard +1/+1, and he gets added on Nexus Strike, create a Chum in the Waters. Chum in the Waters is a 4 mana slow spell that grants an enemy vulnerable and summons a Longtooth for you. Longtooth is a 4 mana 5/1 with Overwhelm. So most likely going to be there to at least kill a unit and or pull out something small that can use that 5 to overwhelm over. So pretty solid.
A bit awkwardly because it's a Nexus Strike, you won't be able to attack the Longtooth for not just the turn you play it, but also the following turn because your opponent will have the attack token.
Right. So,
but still, we're not complaining about a 1 mana 3/2 elusive that generates value, right? There's not much downside because Longtooth has Overwhelm. It will deal extra damage to your opponent. This is a solid card for elusives.
There's a solid chance too that he's going to dissuade your opponent's attack a bit more than anything else would have anyway. So it's possible that he hits the board. He doesn't necessarily stop your opponent from attacking, but he discourages them, then gets his attack in after.
Yeah.
Fizz's spell is Playful Trickster, which is a weirdly modified rally effect. So as opposed to Relentless Pursuit, which is just 3 mana rally, this is 4 mana, and you have to remove an attacking ally from combat to rally.
But notably, because it's fast, you can do it. I mean, I guess you can't do anything in combat with slow spells anyways, but you can use it on a unit that's already blocked.
Yeah, that's like getting unfavorably dealt with in combat. But it's still like, I don't know. I feel like the biggest reason this is 4 mana is because it's on a champion spell, so you can technically have...
Lucian's champion spell is Relentless
Oh,
Pursuit.
fuck, it is. Never mind then. Yeah, I don't know. This is weird. This card's just weird.
So, if it's a 1-drop, you're playing a fairly aggressive deck. A couple rally effects are pretty good. Something I've found is with Lucian decks is I'm not usually actually wanting to add any Relentless Pursuits, but I'm fairly happy to get an extra attack. And I think this is going to be fairly similar, right? You're going to just find an opportunity where you swing with 3 or 4 dudes, they block one,
remove that
bounce
one.
it back, and get another hit in.
Yeah.
And because Fizz is elusive, and this tends towards elusives, the rally effect is almost always going to be more damage and worth using.
So I guess what we should really build now, though, is the Bilgewater Demacia 3, 6... Yeah, 12...
Damn, she's fine.
The 12 rally Bilgewater Demacia deck.
Oh, God.
And then you can play that new Plunder card that lets you rally again for 6.
Oh, Jesus.
So, just never stop attacking.
15 rallies.
Yeah,
that's just a no.
And then looking through the cards coming out as... I'd like to... They put these thematically in the right places, but I don't think any of these cards really support Fizz. They're just other little cute sea critters. That's really all it is. This is the Disney section, and all of these things are adorable.
I don't mind Shell Shocker or Coral Creatures too much in certain Fizz decks.
Sure.
If you're trying to be a bit spell heavier, but like Fizz PZ, right?
Yeah, but the mechanic that comes with the Fizz cards isn't the most exciting thing in the world. Attune is just when they're played, you gain a spell mana. It's actually almost kind of awkward that this is used as a keyword, because this is like one of those keywords you don't need Plunder Poro to have.
Exactly. That's definitely what we're looking out for most.
Oh no, big fucking nerf to Plunder Poro. That's what happened.
Yeah. So
they had to keep it in check, guys.
Riot, we told you we wanted better things for Plunder Poro, not worse. Come on, man. Like, help us out.
It's okay. Someday they'll keyword indestructible, and then Plunder Poro will be the champion.
In Plunder Poro news, today I played against one that got Lifesteal and Scout, and I was on like a burn aggro deck. I felt so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Plunder Poro OP.
Yep.
All right. But yeah, none of these are super important. Shell Shocker as a 1-mana 2/1 with a tune is just okay. It's fine. You know. Free 1/1, free 2/1 effectively.
The other one that I find interesting is Bubble Bear, but
if there's any Bubble Bears in our audience, please hit me up.
Yeah, and if anyone breaks Bubble Bear, let me know, because I'm scared of this card. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I am
Bubble
too.
Bear is mostly meant to be a way for Bilgewater to dissuade opposing elusive decks.
No.
It's just
he's there to be buffed.
He's there to be broken.
Freljord Bilgewater Elusives is going to be a thing now, and it's all going to be just slam all your things onto Bubble Bear and have Bubble Bear kill your opponent, because Bubble Bear's beefy.
All right.
I don't know. Because he's in Bilgewater, if he was in Ionia, this card would be busted as hell, but since he's in Bilgewater, he does force you into a really, he forces you to play him with
awkward
buffs.
secondary region.
Yeah, which is the only reason he's not busted, and why I'm, just... Looking at the stat line of 306 elusive, screw the attune. Just 306 elusive in my mind is just like, don't do this. Don't do this to me right now, Riot. You're gonna make elusives too good. But he is in.
Take heart, Bubble Bear.
Exactly, but once you're in Freljord, I think you only get so many elusives from Bilgewater that you can't really play an all-in elusive package with it. You'd really be going in on Bubble Bear and like other Freljord threats. So this isn't as spooky as it could be. Just don't print something like this.
So what you're saying is Bubble Bears are object lesson in some cards that will be broken in one region are fine in another.
Yes, yeah. Because again, just if he was in Ionia, I legitimately think
we'd have concerns.
He'd be a spooky card. but now he's just a cute big boy, and that's fine.
All right, let's move on to Misfortune and her associated cards. Yeah. So, Stan, I know you've had a love affair with Misfortune's cards, so tell us what you like about it.
So, you say that I like when she curves out perfectly. I don't like that the 2 games I played against her, that when I first came across this deck, the Misfortune Scout deck, was them curving out perfectly both goddamn times. With Fleet Feather Tracker,
all right, so
make things vulnerable, play a Misfortune, swing. On curve, her curve is nuts. All
right, so for those who have not yet memorized the card, Misfortune is a 3-mana 3/3.
Yeah.
And when any allies attack, she deals 1 damage to any battling enemies and the enemy nexus.
Yes. And she levels up when she's...
So it makes blocking her really awkward, and you get some free damage, and she doesn't even have to swing.
No, yeah. She's a really interesting backliner. I do like, flavor-wise, how they designed her, because they designed her exactly like her league champion. Hide in the back and shoot things, which is really well done. She levels up...
So when she...
She levels up when she's seen you attack 4 times, which is typically why she gets paired with the scout decks, because it's not that hard to level her up the turn after she's played. The 2 turns after she's played, typically. Most of the good scouts...
Your next attack sequence after she's played.
Yeah, most scouts come out... good scouts come out on 4. And when she levels up, she basically just gets a better ability of... Well, she gets Overwhelm. Actually, she gets...
Yeah, she gets her standard 1/1, she gets Overwhelm, and instead of shooting once when your allies attack, she shoots 3 times.
Yeah, so anything 3x or less trying to block is dead, and every time your opponents attack, every time your units attack, you are dealing 3 damage to the enemy nexus as well. It is important to note, this is not per attacking ally, this is just... When allies attack, no matter how many of them swing, her ability triggers once, and it's good. It's just...
So, I'm loving this design in no small part because it's fairly narrow as far as strategically what you can do with it, because it only hits battling units. This is much better as an aggressive card than a control card.
Yes.
Because if your opponent doesn't have to block you, right? If your opponent's just willing to take 3, Misfortune just does 4 damage and calls it a day.
Yes.
And then they can clean it up with spells or whatever. And she is fairly fragile, right? She has 3 health, not 4, and that's a big deal.
Yep. She is hittable, but she is fragile from removal standpoint, but because she never needs to attack, she kind of gains some durability that way. That her ability... doesn't rely on her swinging in. So you are forced...
And also, blocking her is hard.
Yes. But you are forced into using hard removal on her. That is, I think, more of a plus than a minus to her fragility, is that you're forced to do that. That is how you have to answer her.
Yeah.
But, so her champion spell is double up, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's not a very exciting champion spell. A much less exciting regular
double
spell.
up is 6 mana to deal 2 to an enemy unit, and if the unit dies, 4 to the enemy nexus.
Yeah.
Not great.
It's fine.
Not the best. It's okay as a champion spell, because what else are you doing with your second of Misfortune? I mean, she's usually softened things up enough that the 2 damage is going to be enough to finish them, but still at 6 mana...
Well, let's just be glad it's not Make It Rain.
If it was Make It Rain, Misfortune would be pretty damn... But
ridiculous.
Let's go ahead and just go over Make It Rain really quick. 2 mana, deal 1 damage to 3 different random enemies. So something that people have talked about a lot with this spell that's actually really nice is, as opposed to Hearthstone, where a very standard thing was Arcane Missile, which was 1 mana, deal 3 damage randomly, which could hit the same thing 3 times, could hit, different things all at once. This does say different random enemies. So if there are 3 units on the board, you're guaranteed to hit 2 of them, and then 50-50, the last one hits the Nexus or that unit. Additionally,
while we're on the topic of targeting, this shows you what it's going to hit when it's on the stack,
Yes.
and I have found out it will not change the targets if you kill something. This is not like Raza.
Yeah, okay, right. That is also important. So you can deny the targeting from it with things like Glimpse Beyond, Glimpse, bleh. Yeah, Glimpse Beyond, stuff like that. Another important thing, while this does say random, because once it's on the stack, it's adding targets, this currently triggers Ezreal, which is probably its most straight up busted mechanic. Like, this card's already good. That
I guess I would say, just stepping aside from the Ezreal interaction for just a second, this is a fairly efficient removal spell, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's got a better rate than Mystic Shot, though it's harder to focus. It's usually got a better rate than Whale. This is just like, it's fairly solid at cleaning out small boards.
Yeah,
makes it hard for wide aggro decks to stop you.
It's a very good card, but that damn as I really feel like this might need to be turned off just because that's strong with Ezreal.
Your targeting is turned off, Ezreal. What's happened?
Yeah, like please, because 2 of these being 6 of your Ezreal targets potentially is jeepers creepers, my guy. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Ezreal, and we'll get to the TF Ezreal deck that utilizes this best, but
this
this is strong.
Yeah.
It's strong on its own. It's strong in synergy. It's just a strong card.
It's very good. Next thing I think we were talking about is a Crackshot Coursier, a card that's being used pretty well along Misfortune.
She's so cute looking. Look at her.
Yeah.
She's so little sweet.
Decent.
She's a 1-mana 1/1, and when any allies attack, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. It's a micro MF.
Yeah, micro miss.
Yep. Pretty decent little ability there. A nice little aggro effect. A nice little way to push through extra damage.
I mean, this reminds me a lot of the
Saboteur?
1-drop from Noxus.
Saboteur.
Yes, this Legion Saboteur.
Yeah, it's very, very close in nature. It's more of a backlineable Saboteur, which is nice.
Yeah, it extends a bit better into late game because of that, because you're not just getting 1 damage off of it and then trading it off.
Yep.
You get to get your 1 damage and block with it, or if your opponent doesn't have great attackers, you get your 1 damage and then do it again next turn, and it plays well later in the game, which I like.
No, very solid card.
In exchange for being worse at trading, right? It's not just a strict upgrade.
Yeah. And then I think I will say also I have seen the Siren actually seeing play. People are at least trying it out right now. I figured the 7-mana tag would be shying people away from it, but I've seen it come up a bit in Misfortune decks, mainly because it guarantees draws you the Misfortune, and
I mean, I would never play this as more than a 1-of, because, again, Misfortune decks slant aggressive, and this is not an aggressive card.
No, absolutely. It's way too expensive, but it's a good ability alongside Misfortune.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess as your curve topper, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it's like a big powder keg, and it has Scout, which is meaning that your Misfortune's triggering twice on the turn that it attacks. Pretty solid. The 3/7 stat line's not great, but
But it does mean it's usually going to get a second attack off, at least.
Which is pretty solid. Anywho, I think that about covers all the Misfortune stuff, and we had 1 or 2 of the
the final card dump.
General rabble stuff.
Yeah.
So, Demasia's new cards.
I think Unyielding Spirit's the first card I'm going to talk about here.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, this...
Not because it's a super amazing card. It's 8 mana, burst speed, gives an ally I can't take damage or die. And this is not super great, right? This is slow. This is, fairly inefficient. It doesn't impact the board immediately. It's an endgame option for Demacia, and I don't think it's going to see a ton of play, but you have to be aware of it. Because if your deck can't handle it, and it's the kind of card that can just utterly destroy a single deck.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a very spooky looking effect. But luckily, again, it can't win against Ionia typically, because the moment they will that card,
Will Ionia you lost.
Yeah, that's game. But it's spooky. It's a spooky looking effect. And there might be something kind of busted around it, but as long as there are Ionia decks around, this card is kept in check.
I would be tempted to play one of these in Lux Karma deck.
Yeah. Oh,
you,
yeah.
You drop this on a Lux, and the game. If you drop this on a Lux and your opponent doesn't have a Will of Ionia in the next 2 turns, you win.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. They're just gonna power through from there. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Next, the other two. So, of the other 3 Demacia cards revealed here, Concerted Strike, I haven't really seen do anything. Just choose an enemy, 2 allies, strike it. That's kind of just...
The issue of needing 2 allies on board to make it particularly good is an issue, right? I'll just play a Whirling Death instead.
Exactly. Play a Detain.
That said, it's removal for Demacia, which doesn't have a ton, so, if you're building a Demacia deck, look at this card, decide if you can make it work.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, they have single combat already, which is just light years better than this. Then Genevieve Elmhart is one of the cards seeing play in the Misfortune deck. One of the better scout cards at a 6 mana 4/4. Doesn't have the best body stats, but when it's summoned, buffs all your other allies +1/+1 for the round, and it has Scout and Challenger, so it's one of those scouts that's almost definitely going to get its second attack off because it chooses its fight.
Yeah, that combination is very nice because not only are you likely to get your second attack off if your opponent has anything small, but additionally, if your opponent has something small, you get to... If your opponent has a couple small things, this can live for another round and just guarantee a ton of attacks.
And that's one of the things they've actually found is that Scout's a better mechanic than I initially thought it was, just from the grounds of your opponent, especially something as Scout Challenger or has something where softening up their blockers.
Scout Barrier.
Yeah. Having things where your Scouts break through and soften up the board for your next attack just is usually pretty solid. And then Ranger's Resolve is sort of our new combat trick in Demacia, where all of your allies get tough this round for 1 mana at burst speed. This is very good against things like Whale, things like Make It Rain, just good ways of stopping the opponent's pinging your stuff.
I mean, on the other hand, Demacia is the region that has the largest health pools on average anyways. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Demacia and Freljord, I guess. Yeah. So you're not so the frequency with which this swings stuff hugely is not that high, but it's non-terrible. Yeah. It's fine, and it's so cheap that it's a very low opportunity cost.
Yeah. So next up we have the new Freljord cards. Caught in the Cold seems okay. Seems like pretty decent potential removal or a way to get some chunked damage onto people. It's a 2 mana slow.
If I felt Ash decks were good, I would be playing this in Ash decks, but exactly. I'm having trouble justifying an Ash deck right now.
Yeah, but 2 mana, given enemy unit Frostbite and Vulnerable this round. Pretty decent removal on that. The only other exciting...
Alright, I think the next thing... go ahead.
The only other exciting card out of Freljord is Aurora Borealis. And it's not so much exciting as it is a meme, but it's, it's there. 7 mana, create 2 random Poros from any region and 2 Poro snacks. So
at burst speed,
if that's true. I still think this card should cost 6, but maybe I'm a crazy person.
I mean, we had this argument, Stan. If this card cost less than 6, it would be.
If it costs less
crazy.
than 6, it'd be busted. But if it costs 6, Poros. Because
this at minimum summons 2 3/3s with a keyword each.
Yeah, whatever. And then,
and remember you can hit the Mighty Poro, so you could summon a 5/5.
Yeah, that's cool. No, just just make Poro.
And then the second one summons 2 5/5s.
Yeah, but just make Poros good. 6 mana is how you make Poros good. So not even busted, just good. That's all it needs to be. Just make my Poros good. Anyway,
all I'm saying is that this is fairly efficient, and it's the kind of card that looks a lot more innocent than it is.
Well, yeah, no.
And you should if you're looking for random miscellaneous mid-range value in your Freljord deck, which you almost never are, but imagining a world where you are, this is the kind of card you should casually pay attention to.
Yeah.
Especially because it works well in multiples and Karma.
Yeah. Make 7 random Poros. I don't care. Do it. Next card up is Eye of the Dragon. So Ionia's new cards. These two are probably going to change up and add more to Ionia decks. This is exactly what I've wanted. This is my Miracle Rogue card. So Eye of the Dragon is a 2-mana 1/2 with a tune, and at the start of each round...
1/3.
Oh, well, 1/3,
It's a 1/3.
yeah, even better. I feel like this card has to be a 1/2, and then I see that extra little toughness, and I'm like, got it. So at the start of each round, you summon a Dragonling if you cast 2 spells or more the round before. Dragonlings are 1 mana 2/1s with Ephemeral and Lifesteal, so it gives you a ton of sustain. Every time you've cast 2 spells, this card is just keeping you alive, giving you aggression, softening up opponents' creatures. It's a good card.
That's insane.
Yeah, and the attune is actually surprisingly relevant here, right? If you miss on 1, play this on 2, you go into turn 3 with 5 mana.
Yep. This is by far the best attune card. The next important new spell to Ionia is Deep Meditation. 4 mana, draw 2.
I'd assert that this is one of the most important cards that was released.
Yeah, I would agree. So again, another 4 mana, draw 2 at burst speed. Already, we've talked about that on its own is a good rate. But this one has the caveat of if you've cast 2 or more spells last round, this spell now costs 2. 2 mana, draw 2 is insanely good.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so this is a nutso-whatso card when it's rolling and keeping these decks funneled. Works really well with...
And once again, it's burst speed.
Yeah.
Your opponent can't stop you.
Can do nothing. Do nothing. Nothing in Noxus has come to be super, super useful. Death's Hand is being tested out, tried a little bit. 2 to an enemy unit, 1 to the Nexus for 3 at fast speed is, not bad. Kind of a good little...
Yeah, I mean, I like it for aggressive decks. You shoot something down and then just get some extra free damage out of it.
Yep. I've seen some people do some weird things where I think just because of... I haven't been playing on the ladder. Iron Ballista is going to be one of those good budget aggro options while you don't have anything else to fill slots.
I'm not sure that my optimized list wants this in the 3-drop slot, but if you don't have good 3-drops, just play this. It's fine. It's above rate. It's got Overwhelm.
Yep. Out of the new P&Z cards, I think, Adam, you said you've seen Suit Up see some play, because besides that, I haven't seen any of these things do anything yet.
I've seen some aggressive decks playing Suit Up, especially Teemo decks.
Yeah, make your Teemo a 4/4 for the turn.
Right, the incredible high roll of top decking this. Okay, so Suit Up, which we should explain what it is.
Yeah.
4 mana, burst speed. When it's drawn, costs 2 less this round, and makes an ally a 4/4.
Yeah, sets them to 4/4. Doesn't give them 4/4, just sets them to 4/4.
Yes, so I've seen this used in 2 ways. One, it's actually a fairly efficient combat trick. PNZ are running a fair number of fairly small cards, and suddenly it has 4 health, 4 attack. Pretty good, lets you blow out removal.
Yep.
Additionally, there's a very high roll if you hit this on your Teemo on 2.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong.
And the kind of aggressive little Teemo deck already wants to be playing some stuff to make its elusive attacks better, and it plays well with the deck anyways.
Yeah.
And just if you have a card that already plays well in your deck and gives you an incredible high roll, it's worth doing.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Out of the new Shadow Isles cards, really...
I want to start with Bark Beast. Yeah. 1 mana, 1/1. The first time any ally dies, gets +2/+2, becomes a 3/3.
Pretty solid.
So this isn't super amazing, gonna break the meta or anything, but it's just a very solid piece of your aggressive Shadow Isles decks.
Yeah. Blighted Caretaker is something I need to test out a bit more. I was testing out some Maokai earlier on the week and didn't put this in, but after seeing kind of what it can do from some other people, Blighted Caretaker looks like it's going to be one of the key cards in kind of the Maokai strategy. So it's a 3 mana 2/1. It's not the greatest stats on its own, but it has play, kill an ally to summon 2 Saprolings. This is a pretty solid little ability to generate a ton of deaths for Maokai, because the Saprolings are going to die. This is going to die. It killed a card, so that's 4 of your death triggers for Maokai. And the Saprolings can be used to soften some things up.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Additionally, this is a fine piece of like your aggressive Shadow Isles decks again because of the Aristocrats package.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very solid Aristocrats card.
I mean, I'm looking at using this in Callisto, where it. Remember how we were talking about triggering Callisto in one card? Hey, this triggers Callisto in one card.
Yep, just with the caveat of needing one other thing on the board that isn't Callisto.
Yes, solid. But like, I mean that's not hard in your Callisto deck.
And I think that's really, of the newer Shadow Isles cards, most of what's getting played. It's possible that like
I see a tiny bit of Terror of the Tides in Nautilus decks.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that is a sea monster.
8 mana 6/5 deep.
Yep.
And gives all your sea monsters, I think, including itself, fearsome.
Yep. Sea monster allies have fearsome.
And when it attacks, all enemies get -2 attack.
Yes.
So your fearsome is likely to be evasion.
Yes, a very good way to get your fearsome.
Neverglade is also notably another Aristocrat card. I've seen it in like Phantom Trickster decks. I don't know if it's going to be good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. If people going in on like the 6 Phantom Pranksters, some at 3,
basically,
some at 5.
Yeah.
That seems.
And it's actually a bit better than Trickster because it also drains. It gains you back.
But it's also a 5 mana 2/4, so that's a little awkward. But you know.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's definitely
remember,
an Aristo deck though.
It's not a 2/3.
Yes, I was about to say. Remember, Prankster has 3 health. This has 4.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's actually it's seen play. I don't know if that deck's gonna shake out to be good, but it's definitely around.
I think what's tricky about once you have like 6 of that effect is you can only have like 3 of them on the board max.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward.
But now that you can at least
like Magic or something.
Yeah, but now that you can at least like let's say you have 3 Pranksters and 2 of these in hand, you can start sacking out the Pranksters to put these on the board instead to just like kind of strictly upgrade them. With a new mechanic of being able to cycle things out.
Swing this stuff and force your opponent to answer the Pranksters. I found that if a Prankster goes unanswered for 3 rounds, you usually win.
Oh, absolutely. But what I'm saying about that is that if you need to, like, if you can't play this because you have 3 Pranksters and need the slots for things to be swinging in, you can just replace the Pranksters instead of, having to sacrifice your creatures that actually need to die.
Gotta love the mechanics changes.
Yes. So yeah,
that's the spoilers. Let's do this. Let's each pick our favorite new card or our favorite, maybe like the card we think is gonna be the most powerful or the one we're gonna see the most play. Just like let's each go down and say, hey, which one do we think is the most powerful?
Yeah, I like that.
All right.
I'm gonna say Adam starts because I don't want to go yet.
All right.
I want to go last.
All right, let's start with the shiny new Bilgewater region because it's new region, new cards.
New region, who does?
I think let's do champion and non-champion. I think.
Sure.
Okay, because our best champion in Bilgewater is Twisted Fate, hands down, no question. Just like that card is nuts.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And our best non-champion, I'm thinking Make It Rain. It cleans up so many different boards. It makes it hard for your opponent to interact. Get a foothold, plays well with a bunch of different cards, so it's got synergy on top of being a good card. There's just nothing wrong with that card.
My
What's your 2, Stan? What's your 2?
Eye of the Dragon, because it's like all I ever wanted.
That's pretty fair.
It's everything I want. It's beautiful. I love it. Mwah, gimme. Favorite new champion though, honestly, might be Naughty Boy. I'm a big fan of this big beefy dude. I need to figure out how exactly I want to play him. I'm somewhere in between like a deck that's running him and Maokai, and I've been just slowly taking Maokai's out because like just getting deep and doing building into the Maokai deck made deep work better than I thought it was going to, and then realizing that Maokai's win condition isn't even necessary. I just slam people with deep stuff. So been kind of leaning more into the Nautilus side of things on that, and I like him. He does work.
Absolutely.
Oh, see, I thought we were doing region by region here, so I only went with Bilgewater cards.
Nah.
Too bad, you're locked in. That's
You're done.
it.
You
You're
did
done. All right, so my favorite non-champ is definitely which one did you say Stan? Eye the Dragon?
Yes, Eye the Dragon.
Yeah, so mine's Deep Meditation.
There you go.
I mean, they both go in the same deck. Honestly, if you'd picked Deep, I would have picked Eye.
Yeah, exactly.
They're both just so good. And then my new favorite champion is definitely Swain. I've had a lot of fun trying to build around him. He's not too hard to flip.
Swain.
and he's I don't know, he's just a ton of fun to get back with a Rekindler.
Oh God, yeah. Oof.
You know, he's just super fun. It's interesting to play like a more controlling burn deck, and that's kind of what he enables. And he makes some nasty things where your opponent's at 20, they think they're untouchable, and then you crack in with like 2 Swain, and then they're dead. So
You know what? I've been looking over the spoilers, and I'm sticking to my calls.
there it is. I mean, honestly, they're fine. Like I Twisted Fate is insane, as is Make It Rain. Like honestly,
they're all very good cards. They're very good cards, Brent.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. All right, so week 1 decks. I'll go ahead and go with one that I've seen a lot of, and actually one that I've been playing the most of as of the past 2 or 3 days. I've been doing a PNZ Noxus Super Aggro Burn list. Really, the only added card I think is Anime Girl Demolitionist.
Yeah.
And there might be like one more low-cost add-on. Let me see.
Well, I mean, that has pushed you more towards the the 2-drop that when you damage it, you damage your opponent.
Yeah.
Crimson Disciple. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Let me find it. Let me find it. This is my Let Me Find It song. I think the only new card is there's also 2 Noxian Fervor.
Yeah, Noxian Fervor.
That card is great for an aggro deck, especially when you have like Boom Crew Rookie and stuff like that, or like use Cask Salesman. You can just pop off your cask and then kill do 3 more damage.
Or if someone
or
tries
they got
to
a burn spell.
Yeah, or if someone tries to grasp you, you just say, "Oh no, you don't get a grasp." Also 3 to your face.
It's like a not as good
like,
glimpse in those.
It's like Grasp resolves, but you take 3 damage instead of gaining 3 health.
Exactly. It's a 6-point health swing. That's probably my deck. I'd say that I've seen the most of that I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
Anybody see anything else that you're gonna call? I'm gonna stake my claim actually saying this is actually gonna be a top tier deck in this new meta. This is the claim staking portion of the podcast.
I believe that. So I haven't hit anything that I feel ladder comfortable with yet from just my random experimentation. But I have been enjoying, like I said, Naughty Boy, a little bit of Maokai, Flippage, kind of figuring out a nice in-between not going all in on Maokai and playing a bit more of a mid-range package. I've been kind of liking the Bilgewater mid-range stuff. It feels really good, feels beefy, feels valuable. Like, everything feels nice and tough, and I like it. But I'm probably going to be switching over to something on Eye of the Dragon soon, just because I just haven't had a chance this week to go in and craft that deck and start screwing around with it. But that's where I will be, and that's what I will be playing for most of this meta, is once we figure out what exactly we're doing with that card.
What about you, Adam? You seen any decks?
You guys know me. You know I like control. You know I like watching things die. So
What?
Like my family.
I've played around with a bunch of different control lists. No, not that. I played around with a bunch of different control lists. You know, I tried out the Swain Shadow Isles deck, which is fun. I've revisited some old favorites. Corona Control is still pretty viable. Yeah. But I just have to give it to TF Ezreal. That deck is just like, you kill everything, and every card is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a feeling that is going to be one of the highest. Just, again, Bilgewater giving Ezreal an extra 3 targets for 2 mana, that's fucking...
Yeah. If they don't change that, I'm probably switching to that deck. Like, right now, I'm either on Burn Aggro, or I'm just running Karma Ezreal and then putting in Eye. Like, I've just basically slotted in Eye of the Dragon and Deep Meditation, and I think that's the only changes I've made to it. And it's like, this is already good enough to ladder. Like, it's pretty insane.
Yep.
I think it's the only 2 new card. Also some Concussive Palms actually go in there pretty well. That card's pretty insane.
Yeah, that card's been pretty solid.
I mean, Concussive Palm is doing also exactly what I expected of it, which is making Yasuo decks just have a lot easier time being what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's just good of like fogging a creature, also trading on, and then also getting a trade off like in a control deck.
Yep.
I feel like
I don't think Yasuo decks are broken or anything, but I'm fairly certain we're at the point where the Yasuo deck can't brick anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yasuo is finally a real card. He did it. Yay. Toot toot.
All right, listeners, we're locking in our 3 decks of Noxus PNC Burn Aggro, Twisted Fate Ez, and I can't remember what Stan said.
I mean, I did, yeah.
Because you didn't stick
Something
claim?
with Eye of the Dragon. We're not entirely sure
Well,
what.
that's a very milquetoast kind of wishy-washy sort of yellow belly sort of answer there, Stan. You gotta lock in something.
You're gosh darn right. I'm locking in. New best deck is 40 Eye of the Dragon. Let's go.
Dang it! He's so stupid. 41-3 is just refill spell mana and never trigger the Dragon Wings. Okay, dude.
Best card in the game. Got it.
Best card in the game. So just have 40 of them. Cool. I mean, any other meta things we're thinking of? Anything we want to like stake claims on? Try to get some free internet capital on?
Nah. I think we've hit about right on all the things that we think are going to be powerful, and I think we're doing it pretty good.
I would like to say that week 1 decks, if you're playing out there week 1, find a simple, stable package and work with it.
Oh, yeah.
Right, if you switch all the time week 1, you're not going to find your footing until the meta is very settled.
Well, I mean,
on the other hand, if you know what your deck does and what its strengths and weaknesses are, you can tune it fairly reliably.
Yeah.
So, pick a deck.
Or just pick the right deck the first time like I do.
Yeah. Or if you're going to honestly like try and ladder right now, just run aggro and abuse people who are doing what Adam's saying. Is it people who are building decks right now and, doing experimental things, if they're doing them on ladder, they're going to get punished by aggro. You're also going to be...
Typically, yeah.
You're going to help them a little bit by teaching them where their weaknesses in their deck are, but, play aggro right now if you just want to strictly ladder, because you're going to catch a lot of people with their pants down and just,
Love that. I love that.
And that's what we're trying to do here,
All right. I think it's
Catch
time...
people with their pants down.
Yeah.
I think it's time for my meme. It's my meme corner. All right, so all this other hour we've spent talking about cards is all bullshit. I'm throwing it all out the window because the real new good card is my boy, my Street Shark, Riptide Rex.
That card is actually good.
That card's actually good.
That card's actually good.
But also, he's a fucking Street Shark, which is something that I think everybody has forgotten in all of these spoilers.
Yep.
So we're going to make a Riptide Rex deck. And you two are going to help me because I literally haven't started yet. All I saw was that Riptide Rex was a card that existed. And it's like the shark with freaking laser beams. I'm pretty sure they're just doing an Austin Powers joke with this thing. It's amazing.
Be. Dan, I'm going to go ahead and save you some time here. You just build a Gangplank deck and throw Riptide Rex in there. Because Riptide Rex plus Powder Kegs just...
That's true.
Your opponent's dead. Your opponent's just dead.
So I'm going to go ahead and just whip this up real quick. We got 3 Departed deck hands.
Yep.
Okay.
3 Gangplank. 3 Riptide Rex, because we're going all in on Riptide Rex.
Departed deck hands.
So the question is, do you want to be Control-y to really abuse the fact that he can kill your opponent's Nexus in one shot with a few
yes.
Powder Kegs? Actually, does he only need 1 Powder Keg? Does 1 Powder Keg make all 7 of his triggers doubled?
I don't know.
Because if it does, you only need 1 Powder Keg and a clear board to kill the opponent.
Let us be wildly irresponsible and assume that is true.
Yes, let's do it. Also, I really like that statement for a piratey Street Shark dude is, all I need's 1 Powder Keg and an empty board and you're dead, son.
Heck yeah.
Also, I mean, no offense, Dan, but 7 times 2 is 14.
No. He does 7... He does 2 damage 7 times already.
No, Cannon Barrage is 2 damage basic?
He does, no. He does 2 to a unit, but if it's dead or gone, he deals 1 to the Nexus instead.
Just 1.
So you will need 3. You will be needing about 5 powder. That's a great point, Stan. You will need to have your entire board filled with powder kegs except for Riptide Rex. That's exactly what we were trying to get to anyway. All right,
well, you can't fill your board with powder kegs. That is literally impossible.
It's literally not impossible. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. This isn't a game unless you could do that. It's not a fun game unless you could do that.
Every 99 powder kegs, you have to make a new stack, Adam. Come on, get it right.
Yeah, come on, dude. I do think Riot should just make you allowed to stack a certain amount. Like, once you fill the 4, it'll just start overflowing.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so we get 4 kegs on the board at least. We get a Riptide Rex down. We have a Gangplank in there. What else? Wait, does he summon?
We need Dreadway Deckhand.
We need Dreadway Deckhand. We got Dreadway Deckhand. You need
probably wanna
the
make it rain.
more powder. The slow make 2 powder kegs.
There it is.
Oh wow, we're really in on this.
Oh
So
yeah,
it sounds like
that
so it
card's
sounds
actually
like
not
there
bad.
sounds like there is a way to have 5 powder kegs and then play Riptide Rex. Then sounds
Oh.
like somebody was eating their words. Eating
No,
their eggy
Dan.
words.
Powder keg stack. You cannot fill your board with powder kegs.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
You can have like an infinite number of powder kegs, but they will be in one slot.
yeah,
oh, Nikes, dude. That's even better.
yeah. No, powder
Okay.
kegs just go up. They,
Oh, we did it.
Yeah.
Okay, well there it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, you just every single card that plays that makes a powder keg and Gangplank as well because he does a little bit of everything.
Yep.
And then
We probably want to zap Sprayfin here because he can draw your good cheap spells, and he's elusive, so he can turn on Plunder.
there you go.
Yep. It's not bad. That's not bad.
That's already like 20 cards. The other 20 are all kill spells. We did it.
Yep, that sounds about right. Make sure your
and
opponent's
we're
board's
calling
clear.
what's the most
Oh
important
no,
part?
we need a Dreadway.
Dreadway. Which one's Dreadway?
Double damage.
9 mana, 4/8, draws a Gangplank and doubles damage
Oh
dealt.
yeah, that cool guy. Yeah,
Yep.
heck yeah. Throw that in there.
So now we
okay,
only
so now
need-
there's 16 removal spells and all those other cards we mentioned.
Yeah, and I think you just do the Shadow Wild's like life gain package to make sure you survive till you play your Riptide.
Sure,
Guys.
why not? And then what's the name of this
Also gets
deck?
us Vengeance, which is a removal spell that does not use our powder kegs, which is important.
Actually, a good point. We need to make sure we get the full stack up. Because this is okay. What's the name of our deck?
1 second. I got you.
The street farts. The Riptide runner.
Oh my God.
Riptide Runeterra. Run the Riptide.
He is absolutely meant to be a street shark because one of the street sharks' name is Ripster.
Yeah.
The street
His name should have been Ripster. His name should have been Riptide Ripster. That'd have been so much cooler.
So good.
All right, we're in honor of.
Oh my God! The deck's called Big Slamoo because that is a street shark name.
Done.
All right, listeners, we will be making Big Slamoo the deck, and we will include it in the description of this video. And we're gonna expect you all to make videos of you running the deck. And if you don't want to, you know what? We're gonna Twitch stream this deck. Yeah, I said it. Twitch TV/Stanjaro. We should probably change that to Run the Terra, but screw it right now.
We'll fix it
We're
later.
gonna run this deck, and we'll put links in the description and shit for when we're gonna do it. Okay, cool. And yeah, I think that's probably about it for us.
It seems like it's about it for us.
Yeah, I think we got there.
Everybody,
For-
one last piece of advice: Google Big Slamoo and remember how amazing the Street Sharks was. That's all I can say right now.
I completely agree. That rule. Big Slam is the best one. He looks like hamburger meat, like a fucking shark.
He is definitely the
Oh,
Michelangelo of the Street Sharks.
He just looks like a hamburger patty.
Oh, what a show!
Anyways, for Run the Terra, I've been Grandmaster Dan.
I've been Adam Edelman Munoz.
And I've been Stan Jirzewski.
And we'll still be those people next time, and we'll see you then.